Welcome to the Local Domination Podcast, your ultimate guide to get local clients fast. Featuring interviews with local marketing and lead generation experts who will show you exactly how to attract local clients and dominate your market. And now, here's your host, Doran Aldana.
Get this, every day local prospects are searching for your products or services online, and they're looking for someone they can trust. Are you capturing that business? How would you like to dominate the local search results with more 5-star rave reviews than any of your competitors so you become the only logical, trusted choice? I call it Operation Domination. Download a free copy of our Ultimate Testimonial Toolkit now at mytestimonialengine.com/domination. Again, that's mytestimonialengine.com/domination and discover how to build your business at the speed of trust.
All right, welcome everyone to another episode of the Local Domination Podcast, your ultimate guide to getting local clients fast. This is your host, Doran Aldana. We got another kick-ass episode for you with the one, the only, Dr. Jeffrey Langmaid. He is, for those who are uninitiated and unfamiliar, a chiropractor, author, speaker, entrepreneur, founder of the evidence-based chiropractor and chiro office coverage. We'll get more into that in a moment for those of you who are unfamiliar with those terms. But he's particularly gifted and talented in practice management, communications, marketing, and of course, he's been able to leverage a particular coined phrase called evidence-based chiropractic, which we'll get into in a moment. But it's a differentiator that is a powerful reminder that we all need to differentiate ourselves in our business, stand out from the pack, because if we differentiate, we live. If we don't, we die. Differentiate or die. And that's really the key in business, is to differentiate, to answer the question, why you? Why you among all the other options? So I'm looking forward to diving deep on this conversation about how to do that, how to get more referrals, more repeat business, use education-based marketing, and a whole lot more with the one, the only, Jeff Langmaid. So Jeff, thanks for being with us today, brother.
Hey, you got it, Doran. I want to let everybody know that you are a saint. We had a couple of scheduling glitches for me to get on. I am pumped to be here, and I'm going to do my best to make sure that we take what I know in my niche and can make it applicable across as many verticals as possible. So thanks a ton for having me.
Hey, well, thanks for being persistent with me. You know, the saying persistence beats resistance is true yesterday, true today, and certainly true tomorrow, and we were tested in that. Apparently the powers that be don't want two badass minds coming together all in one place, all at one time, because we had some formidable resistance, but we overcame the resistance through persistence. So again,
no doubt.
Thank you for pushing forward with me. So here we are. We made it happen, and now we get to dive in and do what we had intended from the initial connection, which of course didn't pan out. But now that we've got through the resistance, let's just dive in and talk about a little bit about your story for those who are unfamiliar with you, Jeff. Obviously, you're a chiropractor, so that was what kind of spawned the evidence-based chiropractic and everything what we're going to talk about in terms of marketing and getting referrals. So maybe just share a little bit about your story, what inspired you to get into chiropractic, number one, and then how did you discover this coined phrase, evidence-based chiropractic, and then how did that launch you into being a consultant and an expert in the area of practice management, marketing, and the like?
Yeah, I'm happy to dive in. So really, when I talk about chiropractic, I think what a lot of listeners will get out of it is really it's a service-oriented business. So, the same rules apply for service-oriented businesses, products or services for that matter, to a certain degree, across multiple planes. So my story, specifically related to chiropractic, is how a lot of people get involved. I'll kind of give you the short version. I was always interested in health and healthcare. My dad injured his back when I was in high school. He went to see a chiropractor. He got better. And he kind of told me, I was at college at the time, hey, when you come home for Christmas break, you got to meet this guy. He's so charismatic, interesting, and he helped me a ton. So when I went back up, I went, met that chiropractor, and I'm not exaggerating that within 5 minutes, that chiropractor is like, have you ever thought about being a chiropractor? I was like, no, not at all. He was like, hold on one moment. And he was like the alumni representative for the largest chiropractic university in the world. So he had like instantly me on the phone getting getting information as far as, potentially becoming a chiropractor. But, how that story kind of came to fruition was as I learned about chiropractic, a lot of the principles of natural healthcare that I started to understand as chiropractic already resonated with me. They were already my thoughts and beliefs. I just didn't have a name to associate with it. So that's really what started my journey into chiropractic care. And as time went on, chiropractors are small business owners. Basically, independent entrepreneurs, small business owners, service providers. So really, my niche within the chiropractic profession and where I've kind of really established my expertise is what I call where research. I always say, hey, my brand and me, I'm where research meets marketing. So it's about utilizing research, utilizing, the tried and true, but putting, as maybe a Gary Vee would say, taking the content and putting it in the proper context. So the audience understands it. And that audience, in a practicing physician sense, in a chiropractor sense, my audience could be another healthcare provider to build a referral relationship, right? Or it could be the public or my community as far as trying to expose, engage, entertain, and enlighten them about a healthier lifestyle and or building trust and credibility kind of in my community. So that's the short version of kind of how I not only got into chiropractic, but sort of where I've dug my heels in as we're going to kind of go down those rabbit holes.
Very cool. So you use the combination of words research meets marketing. Can you tell us more about that and how that applies to any local business and how they can use that as an unfair advantage in their marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really about knowing the product. I mean, it sounds almost foolish, but having, command knowledge of your product or service. And then being able to, so that's kind of what I'd call the research. So in chiropractic, I can actually look in research journals, right? Medical publications and see what's going on. But in a field that doesn't have that, I think it's really about knowing your product or service literally better than anybody else in your competition zone. And then knowing as much as possible about the competitors. That gives you the information. That's the research. And then to me, the marketing is, okay, how can I utilize, tactics, strategies, techniques to be able to translate that into what matters to my prospects? So again, if it's, you're going to speak to somebody differently on a peer-to-peer or a professional level than maybe you would to somebody who's never been exposed to your product or service before. And being able to understand how you can meet somebody where they're at, how you can provide value and information to them and then kind of lead them on their journey. And if that journey is next to you side by side, and then you're, a partner or they become a client or whatever the case may be, wonderful. But if you can also just advocate for your industry, then you also build your credibility internally within your industry, which reaps rewards even beyond just that transactional level as far as a client or an exchange of service on a local level. So those are kind of, a little bit, hoity-toity or kind of, out there as far as not really in the weeds, but that's kind of the strategy that I like to deploy when I talk about using research. That's product knowledge, hardcore. Mm-hmm. And then being able to utilize that through your preferred channels, and we could talk about some of mine as well, to be able to meet your customer, your client, your prospect where they're at and start to engage with them.
Gotcha. So if I'm hearing you right, research meets marketing is about having a thorough and deep knowledge of your product, your service, your market, such that you can come to the prospective client with education that attracts as opposed to a sales pitch that repels. Is that kind of the idea?
100%. Absolutely correct. When you can provide, it's at this point has been around a little while, but content marketing, when you can talk about things that matter to your client or your prospect, again, it starts to bridge that gap. It starts to build that relationship. And then you don't have to be selling 24/7. You can really focus on branding yourself, branding your business to your community or peer-to-peer, and that's going to give you some credibility. And I always love it. I mean, the best clients to me, the best people that I work with are those that I just became the logical choice for them. Now, don't get me wrong. I still go through my sales processes. I think it's important to have some of those on lockdown. But as far as my ideal client, I love it when I hear somebody, I ask clients all the time, hey, how'd you hear about me? And sometimes it's so, it's long, right? They might say, I heard you on a podcast. I heard you. Then I followed your email. And it maybe isn't just one magical ad that got them in, but I built the trust and credibility by knowing the market, by knowing where they're at and speaking their language. And then over time, it became a foregone conclusion that at some point they were very likely to team up with me.
Yeah, chances are if you were to interview them, the golden thread woven among all those different breadcrumbs that they picked up along the way that led to the sale was that you're adding value. You're building trust, you're adding value, you're educating, you're serving, and that had them picking up the crumbs and obviously wanting more. Right?
Yep, that's 100% correct. Because a lot of times, when you start to get that deep product knowledge, of your field, a lot of times it can almost become a little bit blinding because it's like, oh, well, everybody else must know this. No, if you're somebody that's going above and beyond, and hey, if it's your life, if it's your career, you should be, right? Like, why not? Be excited about it. And as you start to then divvy out that information, again, the positioning on that, I think, just goes so far because, it might not get you the sale tomorrow, but it's really going to build your brand absolutely long term.
Yeah, absolutely. I wholeheartedly concur. So why don't we unpack this and show a tangible example from your world, since, this is something that was spawned from your practical experience. How did you take your research and have it meet your marketing as a chiropractor to gain the unfair advantage in your marketing in your local market?
Yeah, so I'll give you two distinct examples in two kind of separate verticals. So one is that in practice, how I came about this whole thing is kind of an interesting story. I'll keep it brief. I joined, most chiropractors practice by themselves. They're sole practice, solopreneurs, so to speak. They have their own practice. That's where they are. I was fortunate to join a very large multidisciplinary group that had, surgeons, that was embedded in the hospital system, very unique setting from a chiropractic perspective. And I'm pumped because I sign up, I'm ready to go. I join the group and I'm like, okay, this is like infinite patience. And I show up and on day one, my waiting room has like tumbleweeds rolling through. Not a good feeling. So, from there, I'm like, okay, cool. I'll just do my chiropractic marketing. And they were like, hold the phone, you're within this bigger brand now. You just can't go all cowboy on us. So I'm like, okay, this is going to get real interesting real quick. So basically what I found out was a lot of the doctors that I practiced with were making decisions based upon the latest and greatest of research regarding patient care. So I just started to attend grand rounds, like kind of these doctor conferences weekly. And I started seeing that they were making decisions based upon that. And a light bulb went off in my head. And I said, well, maybe I can start showcasing them chiropractic research. Well, first I was like, I wonder if there is any. And I found out there was. And I was like, well, I can showcase them this information. And that might open their eyes a little bit. And it did. And then I said to myself, well, I wonder if this works with the docs in my group. I wonder if this would work with the primary care docs in my community. And it did. And I started to see, all right, there's a trend here and there's a big time need for it. So that is really what spurred on what ultimately became the evidence-based chiropractor, which was really about providing other chiropractors with the tools and systems to do the exact same thing. Now, as far as now I take that business, right, the evidence-based chiropractor, and how have I propagated that? Well, it's been by doing a lot of the same thing. So it's by utilizing a lot of social media, Facebook being the number one item, podcast being number two, email being number three, in putting out content that matters to other chiropractors, things that get them excited, things that get them pumped up and make them feel good about themselves and their practice. Then they share that, et cetera, and it rolls downhill. So, again, that's kind of a lot of information to go into, and I'm happy to dive into any specifics, but that's at a high level how I've gone about it in each plane.
Reminds me of a chapter in Chet Holmes's book called The Ultimate Sales Machine. For those of you who haven't read it, it's definitely worth a read. If you don't like reading, get the audiobook. I'm telling you, it's phenomenal. And there's a piece in there that talks about how it's really about education-based marketing, and it talks about how market data is more motivational than product data. So, for example, if you talk about just, let's say you're in the carpet cleaning business and you just talk about your carpet cleaning equipment and your carpet cleaning service. Well, that's snoozeville all day long. People couldn't care less about that. But if you talk about all the research that's done, that there's a bazillion little mites, little nasty things crawling in your carpet that contribute to all kinds of diseases and asthma and cause all kinds of maladies and infirmities. And it's actually backed with market data about how a dirty carpet causes that stuff. All of a sudden, they're all over it like white on rice to pony up the dough to get their carpet clean. Not because you got a super galactic carpet cleaner, but because they saw data that motivated them and inspired them to realize they have a problem and they need fixing it. So I think a big piece of what you're talking about here in terms of research meets marketing is giving them that relevant data that naturally inspires them once they learn it to want what you've got and to have you be differentiated from everyone else, because first of all, you're giving them that data, no one else is. And then of course you can construct the buying criteria with the education you give so that you become the only logical choice in the prospect's mind.
That's a great example, because let's use the carpet. I don't know anything about carpet cleaning, by the way, but I'm gonna dive down that rabbit hole a little bit. So I agree. I mean, I think the data is very important to showcase, as you said, well, there's these microbes, and then tying it back. So then the context is like, what do people want to do? Well, with carpet, number one, they don't want to be embarrassed if somebody else comes over and they see like these crazy stains. Number two is they probably want to feel comfortable rolling around with their kid or by themselves and not be like skeezed out. So I think, you can start by saying, hey, I know people just like you. And if you're like me, I every once in a while, I like to get down. If I'm watching a movie with my spouse, my kids playing, I want them to have fun. I want to feel comfortable and confident when people come over. It's nice to have a clean household. Now, and then you dive into the research. Well, now you're making it pretty compelling that number one, you know what the heck you're talking about due to the research. And number two, you brought it to the context of like what matters to them. And it's probably not the deep aspect of the research, but it's probably, again, they want to roll around on the carpet. They don't want to be embarrassed. They want it to smell good. So you can tie back your deep product knowledge to what matters to them. And then I feel like in that context, you walk out, I guarantee you the next carpet cleaner is not going to go through that process. And by the way, then on your social media accounts, probably not too many people are probably following carpet cleaners online, but I could be proven wrong about that. You can put out tips and tricks for people to be able to keep their carpet clean between cleanings. And now you become somebody that's really value adding for them and their family, or maybe giving them tips on when it's time to replace the carpet and all of that fun stuff. Now you just become this like you become the local guru of carpet cleaning. And again, that absolutely is the way to build a service oriented business, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And even, start to cater to the do-it-yourselfers. Sure, we can come and do it for you if you're busy and you don't want to have to mess around. But hey, if you get a stain from wine, here's how you fix it. Just do this, a little bit of that, and bada bing, bada boom, you got that thing clean. Or if you want to, protect your carpet from getting really soiled, here's something you can put on top of it. And this is one of the things that we do when we come to do it. But hey, here's so in other words, educate. And I think we're kind of beating a dead horse now. So it's probably time to dismount, but you guys get the idea. Education is really the key, and it's powerful when you infuse it in all your marketing. So tell us about building referral relationships. You talked about strategic alliances with referral partners. Obviously, a great source to get referrals is clients. Give us some of your best strategies that you found to be effective in the real world on the front lines of capitalism in your practices and other people's practices as you've been guiding them and coaching them to success when it comes to getting referrals from partners as well as from clients.
Yep. I think the North Star of it is super basic. How do you make things easier or better for them? So, and that's really, then the tactical comes on top of that. So ultimately it's, in my opinion, it's not how can you beat a competitor by 1 cent? How can you, give a deal that they can't refuse? You can race to the bottom if you want. I just don't think that's a great way to do business. And I certainly appreciate the fact that everybody listening out there, that's not their modus operandi. So for me, it's about really finding what somebody else is doing currently, learning about them, asking questions, using the Socratic method, learning about them, asking questions, and then finding out where is your value add? Where can you make things easier or better for them? In the way that I love to frame it, and I'll kind of dart between medical and non-medical here. But if I'm asking questions of a primary care physician, let's say, we'll use a great example. 30% of a primary care doc, 30% of their practice is typically related to spine complaints. And 90% of primary care doctors have had patients ask about chiropractic care. Only 11% have made a referral. So it's a huge opportunity. But to bridge that gap and to build that, to me, it's all about asking questions and understanding what they're doing, and then being able to tell them, hey, I understand exactly why you're doing that, doc, but a lot of the other partners we've worked with in town have this frustration, and they've looked to us to be able to help with that because of X, Y, Z. And that's been a very, very, I mean, we can kind of insert the medical terms there, but that's kind of the framework that I think can really work in any industry. And hey, if there's not a value add, I mean, if the PCP, in this case, the primary care doc, if their brother-in-law is a chiropractor down the street, well, unless something happens in their family, you're probably not breaking that relationship. But it's important to know, because now you're not beating your head against a wall wondering and hoping and praying that they're going to send you a referral. But the second component is now you've figured out, okay, well, I probably can't value add for them in the way that I'd like to, or I'm not going to be as aggressive, but now I can just have a nice relationship with that individual. And hey, maybe something happens down the road, or maybe something changes or somebody moves, and then you are waiting in the wings. So for me, it all gets back to learning about what the other person is doing by asking questions, and then simply finding where you can value add, highlighting the fact that it's not your first rodeo, aka, hey, a lot of people that we've spoken with feel the same way, but here's a frustration that we commonly hear, and here's where we can solve for it.
Right. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So the Socratic method, asking questions, a heck of a lot more compelling than just trying to ram something down their throat. Actually tuning in and finding out what's important to them is certainly an intuitive thing that a lot of people just don't do for whatever reason. And I would wholeheartedly concur, because, you know, I have a sister company called mortgagemarketingcoach.com. We provide marketing solutions to mortgage professionals. And one of the areas of opportunity for a lot of mortgage pros is working with realtors. I mean, because who can send them more referrals more often than realtors? There's no other category, especially if they're top producing realtor. And a lot of times they're going after realtors with the same old song and dance. We got great rates, great service, throw us a bone. And then they wonder why they get the phone hung up on them, and they get dejected and rejected and all this. And then we show them how to, you know, approach them with a unique value add. We call it a UVP, unique value proposition, such that the realtor actually wants to meet with them, actually wants to engage, actually wants to hear more. And we're dialing into that station that everyone's tuned into, WIIFM, what's in it for me.
Yep.
And then, of course, the first meeting is all about asking questions. So we have what's called a realtor needs assessment. So while everyone else is talking about how great they are, and they're just showing up and throwing up and talking about, you know, this is all the reasons why you need to be sending me referrals, our peeps are asking questions and listening and taking notes and actually having genuine caring, concern, and curiosity. And then, of course, naturally, the realtor is blown away. They've never had that kind of, you know, amazing conversation. And how ironic is that? They talk the least, and yet they're the most brilliant conversationalists just by asking questions and listening, right? But that's how it works. And yet, guess what? The person who asked the question is the one who's in control of the conversation. So from empirical experience myself, I can tell you I wholeheartedly concur with that prescription of asking questions, not just any question, but really good quality questions that uncover where you can add value, how you can add value, where are the gaps, where are the holes. But a lot of times people, they get that, and they get that, yeah, I understand that getting in front of more potential referral partners and asking the right questions would lead to more partnerships and more business. And I could totally see myself being successful with that if I can just get in front of people. But my challenge is getting in front of them. They're not receptive. They're skeptical. They're busy. They got, you know, every excuse in the book why, you know, call me later, call me next week. And so getting traction with actually getting in front of people to do this kind of, you know, conversation where they're asking these questions can often be a hurdle. What would you recommend for someone like that who's having a hard time actually getting in front of these people and asking these questions?
I'd say make it about them and look at how many times you're using the word I. So I think that's really a key component. I'll give you an example from the healthcare world. So when we call to set up a meeting with a primary care doctor, here's the way I'm going to typically go about it. Hi, this is Jeff from Dr. Langmaid's office. We've co-managed quite a few patients with Dr. Jones. However, we've never had the opportunity to meet. I'd love to come over and learn more about your practice. Who do I speak to in order to set up that meeting? You can see there I said nothing about, hey, I want to come over and pitch chiropractic and learn how you can send me people. Like, it's not interesting. Or I did not say, hey, we have the Wonder Gizmo 700 that I know this doc is just going to love. People see through that in like 2 seconds.
Right.
But when you can show up, I don't believe, I use the word, I in that whole sentence. But it's about, in the healthcare world, I'm focusing on co-management. That's bridging that gap. We have a commonality, the patient, so to speak, in this case. And I'm talking about, I want to learn more about what they're doing, what you're doing. So we can better serve the people in our community. So again, I just think it really comes down to a relentless focus on the other individual and really framing it. And that's hard because even as a passionate marketer, as a passionate, business owner, of course I want to scream from the rooftops about my product and service. But I think, again, there's nothing in the early stages that can be more repelling than that, especially in the relationship business. So, just being casual, being real, and letting people know that you want to learn about them, and just set it up so it doesn't seem like you're also not like baiting and switching. Like don't start going that direction either, but just mean it earnestly. So, knowing your specific vertical, again, it all comes back to the same thing, right? When you know your vertical inside and out, when you know your business exceptionally well and you have command knowledge, now, when you're learning about them, that helps you ask great questions, right? And then you can more easily pivot and understand maybe those 2 to 3 common frustrations that you can help solve for. Hey, and if you can't, then now's not the right time. That's cool too. There are more fish in the sea, but people are going to leave that meeting having a great taste in their mouth, not a bad taste in their mouth.
Yeah, and what I'm really tuning into what you're saying here is being dialed into framing it in a way that's compelling to them. So you talk about you and what you're up to, learn more about what you're doing with your practice. So that's one component where, people, obviously, if they feel that it's genuine, they're naturally inclined to want to, have people learn more about their practice and more about their business. If we want to pour gasoline on the fire, we can take it one step further, even 2 steps further, and talk about, you can seed the frame that, explore how I can add value to your practice or how I can add value to your business, or explore how I can help serve, our shared clients as well as, add value to your business. So any way you can frame it where it's pushing buttons that are meaningful, relevant, and valuable to the prospective referral partner, obviously that's going to be more compelling than, hey, I want to talk about how maybe you can send me some business for obvious reasons. Right.
Yep.
So the more you can stack that value proposition that comes across as genuine and authentic, obviously the higher the take rate in terms of people saying yes to a meeting. Is that the idea?
Absolutely. And with the referral relationships, right? So these are a little bit different things. So when you're going after just one-on-one clients, a little bit different. Like in this case, we're talking about building that referral relationship. And if you're building that relationship with somebody, that referral relationship, the thought is, right, that's a 1 times 100, meaning you build the relationship with that one individual, but they could potentially give you access to hundreds, tens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of other individuals. So I think that's where, exactly as you said, that's where it's about do a little extra homework, like learn a little bit more about where they're at. If you can see if you do web design and you see a glaring defect on their website, if you're into real estate and whatever the case may be, you just see a real missed opportunity or something that could benefit them or help them out. Again, the relationships, most people, it takes a little bit of time. So be patient with it. focus almost exclusively on them in the beginning, because those are the best that you'll ever form. Because again, when you have something like that, then you just put a little bit of water on it and it yields, again, multiplier results, right? As opposed to your client marketing individual, which really is a little bit more transactional by nature. And I still think you should be looking, obviously, always for the value add for the other person, but be patient, and I would say have a relentless focus on the other individual when building a referral relationship.
Yeah, and you make a great point that reminds me of another key distinction, the distinction between a technician and a marketer. You see, a technician's great at what they do. In your case, as a chiropractor, snapping necks, cashing checks, right?
Yep.
And for a mortgage professional, it's finding a home for the loan and getting the deal done on time. If for a bread maker, it's making bread.
Yep.
So that's the technician. The marketer is learning how to market whatever products or service you offer. And obviously there's two very different skill sets and different areas of focus and different activities. And a lot of times we get sucked into the vortex of operations and being great as a tactician and a technician. But if we learn how to market effectively, and that's a big piece of what we cover in this podcast, now when you go to your prospective referral partners, it's not just about providing great service or great pricing or a wow factor experience for the client, which is great for those who have a noble motive. You know, they'll want their clients to be happy, so that's certainly a motivation. But if you can add, hey, I'm going to show you how you can actually grow your business and get more repeat or referral business and help you expand and grow your practice or your business, that's a hell of a lot more compelling proposition than I'm just going to provide your service, your clients with great service.
Yep.
Right?
I could not agree more. Again, and I'm gonna give a real specific focus example that everybody could implement tomorrow, literally, if they wanted to. So. Cool. On a referral relationship, so this is going to be typically it's going to be a complementary business. Somebody that maybe doesn't do the exact same thing as you, but somebody where there's distinct overlap between the clients that would see you and them. Here is one of the easiest, simplest ways to do it. We have these wonderful things called smartphones in our pockets now. I don't even know if you can call smartphones. That makes me sound old. Phones with cameras.
Dumb phones, smartphones.
Yes. So what you can do is focus. We just talked about it, but I want to get super tactical. So we just talked about relentless drive and focus on the other individual. How about this? How about immediate, with their consent, obviously, but imagine this. You go into them and you say, you know what? What I've learned of your business is so great. I want everybody in my audience to know about it. Can I come over tomorrow? We'll do a quick Facebook Live. I want to ask you 3 questions, X, Y, Z, about you, your business, your practice, what makes you guys special, so that all of my people know exactly who you are and what you do. I'll guarantee you, I'll throw this to you, Doran. Do you think that person, once you do that, might share that across their channel?
Oh, absolutely. They'll ask you for the raw footage or the raw file so they can upload to their YouTube channel if they have it and have it tagged to all their platforms. And absolutely, if it's a killer platform for them to really get the word out about what they do in an exciting, cool, educational way, they'll want to leverage that any way they can.
Yeah, and just do a little bit of homework, right? I mean, if you see this person's done no video and they have a face made for radio, as they say, they might do a ton of writing. Ask them, hey, I'd love to just get a few quick comments and we can put it onto our blog. If they seem like, they're trying to do some video, but not very good at it. Let's say they're not doing it consistently. Okay. So they're probably pretty comfortable on the camera, but you just do a little bit of that homework. Again, go that little bit of extra, learn a little bit about what they're doing in the platform that they're using, whether it's audio, whether it's, written, or whether it's video. Or just, if you don't see any, just ask, hey, which are you more comfortable with? Focus on them, highlight them to your people. You start doing that around town with complementary businesses and be a little bit strategic with it. I can guarantee you that your audience will go up exponentially as they showcase then the content that you created together back to their audience. And they're just going to think you're a cool guy or gal. You're going to build rapport quicker than anybody else in town.
Absolutely. And the best part is you don't have to create all the content. You're getting someone else to create the content because you're interviewing them just like I'm interviewing you. I don't have to create much content. Most of the quality content, if not all of it's coming from you, Jeff, not me. So we're creating the content at the speed of sound in this case. and we're able to create rapport on the fly, add value to you, get more visibility, exposure for you. And of course, there's our instant trust and credibility that's established just from doing that. Plus, the audience gets value in listening and tuning into it. And so it's a triple win scenario. And what an irresistible offer to be able to reach out to people that forge a new potential referral relationship or strategic alliance just by asking them, hey, I see you got some great stuff. It looks like you're the real deal. I'd love to interview you. I'd love to showcase you. I'd love to feature you. I mean, you'll never, out of 100 people you ask, you might have one say, no, I'm not interested. The rest they'll all be over like white on rice. And it's a game changer, just a shift in paradigm, a shift in positioning, a shift in perspective. So that's what this podcast is all about, shifting perspective, giving you guys new ideas. But of course, it's not enough to have the idea. We got to pull the trigger and execute. So let's cover a couple more things before we do this this podcast and wrap up. What about getting referrals from clients? That's perhaps one of the best sources of referrals, and yet so often we overlook it. We just kind of expect it, almost like we're entitled to get referrals just because we exist and provide great service. But obviously being proactive is going to get better results if it's effective than if you're just drifting and just hoping for the best. So what have you found to be effective when it comes to proactively asking for the referral?
Yeah, I think you're gonna hear a lot of broken record here. I think it's about finding the right time and focusing on them. So finding the right time, obviously everybody has those pinnacle moments, right? Like right where your client is the happiest they're going to be. And everybody knows their industry, that could be a little bit of a different time, right? So in the healthcare industry, it's typically, when somebody's pain is gone, right? I mean, they're like, they come in for a reason and they leave feeling better, whether that's the first visit, the third visit, whatever the case may be. But everybody knows when their client is going to be at that happiest. And I think really identifying that, and I say this with love, not with not on the other side of the coin, finding that power position. When is it that you are the sparkle in your client's eye, so to speak? And then I think it's about letting them know, in my opinion, there's a couple ways to do it, but in my opinion, it's about letting them know that you appreciate them and letting them know, hey, Doran, you've been absolutely fantastic. You know what? I think we've done some great things together. I know you're feeling a ton better than when you initially came into the practice here. You're back to doing the things that you love to do. And I'll tell you what, I love working with people just like you, people that take their health seriously, people that are looking to improve their lifestyle, and people that are really motivated to live a better life. And I'm always looking. I know you probably have a few friends that you work with, or clients even that you work with, that are suffering in the same way you were when you came in. If you could let them know about us, or even if applicable, you don't mind if we reach out to them, I think it'd be really a great thing to be able to help them along their journey. I would be honored, and I absolutely loved working with you. That's some very simple scripting. Again, all focusing on the other individual, and that's what that would be. I mean, that's kind of my response to that in a nutshell.
Yeah, so that's what I would call appreciation-based marketing at its finest. Appreciating them for their qualities and characteristics that you genuinely do appreciate, that you would love to just wave a magic wand and replicate in all your clients. Obviously, if it's BS, the people's BS detector is going to pick that up. So it needs to be genuine. But if it's the kind of client that you'd love to replicate and have just a multitude more of that same marvelous type of client, tell them so, and then bridge from there to asking for the referral. And I would go one step further and say, would you be open to having a quick brainstorm session to see if we might be able to activate your mental Rolodex and see who in your world I might be able to help? Would you be open to doing that? A couple minutes, right? And then you go through the different categories. Who do you know who has been complaining about their back at work? Who do you know who's been complaining about their back? I know you play hockey. On the hockey team, or whatever the case is, right? Go through the different categories. All of a sudden, they're going, actually, now that you mention it, I do have, my neighbor actually has been complaining about his back for a long time. I never even thought about it until you just mentioned it, right? So by brainstorming, all of a sudden, you get permission to brainstorm. So that now they're like, okay, we're playing team here. They've given you permission. Now you can start to go through the different categories. And those are the key words that I found work really well. Who do you know who? Not do you know anyone? But who do you know who? It kind of presupposes they know someone, and now you're just activating their mental Rolodex to find out who it is.
Well said. I love it. I could not, I could not emphasize exactly what you said enough. And again, I think it's important for all of us out there to recognize the fact that, hey, it's not one size fits all. So you said it. Be within your integrity. Be open. Be earnest. You might not say those phrasings to exactly every person if you don't mean it. So just like you might not build a referral relationship if there's not that value add, if the person was just a pain in the butt their entire time as a client, well, it doesn't mean all their friends are going to be a pain in the butt. So maybe that's a little bit over presumptive.
But they probably will.
Line is be earnest with them. And that's like, it's just going to win the day. It takes a little bit longer time, but when you're open, when you're earnest, when you do have that appreciation for those clients, and we all have them, let them know about it. And I love your kind of back end on that script. I could not agree more. It's a fantastic way to ask to open up the doors.
Yeah, no, it's definitely unlocked a lot of referrals for my clients using that particular approach. So I encourage you guys to test it for yourself and see how it works for you. I promise you it'll work a lot better than not asking, and it'll certainly work a lot better than just hoping. So let's talk about one more thing, and that's Facebook ads. It seems to be a craze nowadays. Everyone seems to be either doing Facebook ads, thinking about doing Facebook ads, or maybe they did them and they didn't work and they're thinking, what the hell's wrong with me? Everyone else seems to be doing, but I can't figure out how to crack the code on making it work. So what have you found to be effective to actually turn dimes into dollars, or at least turn a modest profit with Facebook ads?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, Facebook changes like the breeze. So, this kind of gets down to really, timely topics, so to speak, because, Facebook's constantly evolving their algorithm and all this kind of fun stuff. I say fun, with a grimace on my face saying that. But at any rate, right now, and it's been this way for a little while, but they are favoring video so heavy that it's difficult. I would say if you are running a video, Facebook ad, a video, if you're running one and it's costing you more, and everybody's vertical is going to be a little bit different, but I'd say if you're paying more than 3 to 5 cents per video view, you might want to take a look at your targeting on that. I mean, most people are getting 1 cent, 2 cent, 3 cent, maybe even less than 1 cent per video view. And that is powerful. I mean, you start scaling that up by 100, by 1,000, you're paying literally, cents, pennies, or dollars for potentially thousands of people seeing your message. So from a strategic standpoint, I still think video is absolutely where it's at on Facebook. There is no question about that. Now, the second component to that is really getting as targeted, no pun intended, as possible with your targeting, making sure that, like, who am I reaching out to? Again, and if you're like, I don't know, well, an easy way to do it is think about your ideal client, the person we just talked about. Who's the guy or gal in your practice, in your service right now that you would love to have 100 of them? What are their characteristics? That's a great place to start from. Like in the marketing world, we call that like kind of your avatar. Who's that specific person? Is it, you can visualize, Jim with 3 kids that drives this car, who has this struggle that, gosh, when you come into their life, it makes a change for both of you for the better. Really defining who that person is and building out a target around that, a targeted audience, around that. Super, super important. But I would encourage everybody right now to focus on video and video views because it is absolutely dominating. And with a video ad, they're also allowing you currently to put a little button that says click more, learn more, download. There are different options for that allow them actually to click through and take that next step. So that micro conversion, is kind of getting them to see the video. The second micro conversion is get them to click on that button. What's the compelling call to action? And then hopefully that gets that individual onto your turf, meaning your website or your properties where you can kind of control the conversation a little bit better. So those would be my big strategic wins right now on Facebook is focus on your targeting and use the video while they are cheap.
Yeah, well, that's one of the really cool things about Facebook is you can track everything. You can make every penny held accountable to results. You using that pixel which of course, for those of you who aren't initiated with Facebook, is a techno term for a little tracking code that allows you to track what's going on with your metrics, your key performance indicators, if you will. And you can laser target pretty much any target market you can imagine, which is brilliant. Any marketer knows that if you can get the right market with the right message, with the right media, you've got a home run. So Facebook makes it really easy to do that for as little as $10 a day. And you can test different stuff to see what's going to work for you. In some markets, video works great. In other markets, just a still image works great. In some markets, having a button that says click here for more works great. In other markets, having no button and making it look like it's an organic post from something they subscribe to works better. So until and unless you test these things, it's hard to determine what's the control higher performer. So there's a lot of different variations. It can be often, frankly, quite overwhelming for a lot of people, especially those tech tards that tend to, get clammy paws just thinking about turning on their computer, let alone using it. So that's where having someone else do the heavy lifting for you. If you're running a small business of whatever kind, one of the options that's available to you, if this is something that's not really your strength, is hire people to do this. There's people who they eat, breathe, and sleep this stuff all day long. They eat it for breakfast. So you can leverage your time and have someone else do this heavy lifting for you if it's not your area of strength. The main thing is it's a phenomenal lead generation tool that if you're not using, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. I promise you that. So
no doubt. And hey, Doran, I'm going to cut in on you because I think you brought up a very, very interesting point. And two things. Number one is ABT, right? Always be testing. So test. Great thing about Facebook, you can turn it on or off on a dime, meaning literally any moment in time. So it's great. Like you're not bound to a multi-$1,000 contract through Facebook when you're setting up your ads, which is awesome. So you can always be testing. The second component is you brought up an unbelievably powerful point that I've spoken about a lot with chiropractors specifically, and that is the pixel. So here's the thing. Here's why this is great. It doesn't matter your industry. Everybody out there listening, think about, and if you don't know this number, I'd encourage you to figure it out. How many people visited your website last month, and how many clients did you have? Was it equal? Probably not. Most people, it's like, 50, 500, 1,000 people visited my website and I had 1, 2, or 8 or 10 new clients. Okay, well, unless all of those other people accidentally stumbled upon their website, they made it there, but they did not convert. The pixel that you talked about is an absolute, it's not really a ninja technique. A lot of people know about it, but it's a Facebook tool that is exactly as you said, an invisible piece of code that goes on your website. And then when all of those people visit your website, automatically, Facebook then can identify who it is. Now, they don't tell you it's Jeff or Doran. It's private. But they put all of those people's identifications, all of those people, anonymously, they put them into what's called a custom audience. And that custom audience just means basically that group of people who visited your website. Well, guess what? You can run an ad just to those people. So this is not cold traffic. You can run a specific ad, a specific message directly to all of those people who already know who you are. They visited your website, but they did not convert. Now, if you can go, 5% improvement, 10% improvement, even just incremental improvement like that, month over month, imagine what that would do to your business. And most people, I'll tell you, chiropractors, they might have 20 to 30 new patients per month on 600, 800, 1,000 people looking at their website. That is a huge gap and a huge divide. So any incremental gain you can get with the Facebook pixel. And if you just want to type into Google Facebook pixel, one of the first things that'll come up is actually the Facebook official Facebook page, kind of explaining it in a little bit of detail. And they do a pretty darn good job of making it simple, even for those of us that are not developers full time.
Well, I'll tell you what, I heard about this stuff for a long time, and I took a crack at the can at it several times, and it always ended with utter and complete failure. But lots of feedback on what doesn't work. So, I was failing forward. It didn't actually start to convert profitably until I started to invest some big capital in my own personal and professional development with coaching and advisors who had already cracked the code. And I just had the opportunity, based on my money being shelled out to them, to swipe and deploy the proven system. It wasn't until then that things started to unleash with leaps and bounds in terms of, growth through Facebook. It didn't happen until I stopped, being such a cheap ass, hopped off my wallet and invested in myself. So for those of you who are frustrated with Facebook, seriously, find an advisor that's got kick-ass results, amazing testimonials and success stories of their clients, and pony up the dough. I promise you, it'll save so much time, so much energy, so much hassle. If you're, a techie person and you tend to wear a propeller head and like it with techie stuff, by all means, figure it out on your own. But for a lot of you, you just need to delegate it to competent people who can do it for you and track all your metrics and send you a report once a week showing you the KPIs, and you just stack cash, meet with clients, cash checks. So if this is overwhelming for you, don't worry about it. You do what you do best. You get the best to do all the rest. Don't sweat it. You know what I mean? So it's really about using the tool, and you don't have to necessarily even know how the tool works. Just use it in your business. There's lots of stuff that happens in my business I have no clue about, from creating web pages to graphic design to editing to you name it, all kinds of stuff I have no freaking clue about. I don't need to know it. I just need to know the big why, the big strategic objective, and then get the right butts in the right seats of the bus to fulfill all those objectives. And then we're moving at a much more rapid pace than if I'm doing it all myself. So again, I just want to remind you guys, you can either have a you-based business or a systems-based business. A you-based business gets you enslaved to a time for money treadmill, basically a glorified job, trading time for money. A systems-based business sets you free. And that's where we really want to be, is having freedom. That's why you got into business in the first place, I'm sure. You certainly did not get into the business to be enslaved to a job, right? So team and systems is what sets you free, and we're part of your team. You're tuning into this podcast. You want to learn, you want to grow, you want to get better. So we're part of your advisory team. Don't get misconstrued thinking you got to do all this crap yourself. That's not the idea here. But Jeff, you've been exceedingly insightful. I love your energy. I love, I listen to you and I feel pumped. I want to get out there and slay some giants. So, you've certainly inspired me. What, for people who want to reach out to you, learn more from you, connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, great question. So you can reach me at jeff@theevidencebasedchiropractor.com. If you want to email me and have any marketing questions, I am happy to do my best. I do not know it all, but I can certainly lend my expertise or direct you to somebody who could better. So jeff@theevidencebasedchiropractor.com, or you can check out kind of all my goings on at drjefflangmaid.com. That's DrJeffLangmaid.com, drjefflangmaid.com. You can check things out there. From there, you could get to any of my business endeavors, my individual podcast, YouTube channel, anything you want. There's a lot of tips for marketing outside of chiropractic. Even though I am chiropractic focused, a lot of it goes to different businesses, and certainly I appreciate everybody that's been listening, Doran. I appreciate you inviting me to come on. I appreciate, again, your patience and being a true professional by making sure we had the opportunity to chat. And I hope everybody out there got at least one sweet nugget that they can utilize to better their business.
Oh, absolutely. And any of you who are chiropractors, you'd be crazy not to link up with Jeff and learn more about how he can help you take your chiropractic practice to the next level. With his best practices and guidance, because he's got some wicked effective stuff, as you can tell already. You just got a small sampling of the goodness that's still yet to be tapped. So definitely link up with Jeff. And Jeff, thank you for your phenomenal energy, your generosity, and the excellent, brilliant, and really clear, lucid ideas that you enunciated for us today. There's there's a million and one ideas out there, but the way you clarify them and make them so crisp and compelling is really truly a gift that you bring. And that's, I'm sure, one of the reasons why you've been so successful. You have a gift for education, and you're definitely dancing in your strengths when you're doing it. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Awesome. So that's all for today, my friends. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Local Domination Podcast, your ultimate guide to getting local clients fast. So if tips galore that help you soar is what you adore, know this, we got more in store. And remember, nothing happens without implementation. So in the meantime, in between time, go forth, engage. It's time for Operation Domination.